Hello and welcome to NPC, Next Portable Console. Today's show is a very special one. It's our final episode of the year and we're going to do something special. I'm one of your co-hosts, Federico, and it's my pleasure to be joined, as always, by the one and only Mr. Brendon Bigley. Hello, Brendon.
Oh, hello. I'm so happy to be here for Handheld of the Year.
Yes, it's the HOTYs, which is the name that we picked. We're also joined, of course, coming straight from North Carolina, as always, by Mr. John Voorhees. Hello, John.
Hello, Federico Viticci. How are you today?
I am feeling extremely fancy and serious because it's a very serious episode.
All right. Well, I'm very glad to be here. I want to, before we jump in, mention again that Brendon and I will be at CES.
And I'm so jealous.
We are recording this a little bit in advance.
Yes.
And by the time this episode comes out, we will be just days away from flying to Las Vegas to check out all of the cool handhelds that are the subject of so many rumors right now. We're not going to talk about those today because we are recording early and things are changing minute by minute at this point almost. And so most of that stuff would be stale by the time we actually release the HOTY Awards. Yeah. So instead of covering the news today, we are going to dive right into our picks. But stay tuned as you listen to this because Brendon and I will have some special stuff for NPC listeners very soon.
Yeah,
yes.
To give listeners some context, we're recording this, and just yesterday we got confirmation that at the Lenovo keynote at CES, Valve will be on stage. So it's pretty much a lock at this point. The fact that there's going to be a Legion Go of some shape and form running SteamOS, and things are changing by the minute. Basically, there's leaks coming all over the place from X, formerly Twitter.com. Also the Everything app, as Brendon likes to say.
You gotta say the Everything app.
Yeah, you gotta say it. So there's not to mention the Nintendo Switch 2 leaks that are also happening this week.
Yeah, they're all over the place.
So by the time this episode comes out, it's gonna be stale, most likely. So we're just gonna talk about our favorite handhelds of the year. Who had the idea? Was it John? Was it Brendon? Was it me? Was it the three of us combined?
I think, truly, I think it was just an obvious. It was such an obvious thing to do that it just kind of materialized out of nowhere. I don't remember who came up with it.
I don't either.
It just felt, it was like, it was almost an assumption that we were going to do it. Yeah. It was like, oh yeah, in the last episode will be Handhelds of the Year. And we were all like, yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah,
great.
Yeah,
of course it will be. What else would it be?
Yeah, I mean, also it's a nice way to justify all the handhelds that we buy. So, makes us feel less bad, because it's for an award episode. John, can you run us through the categories?
All right. We have several categories today. We are going to kick things off with the best handheld under 4 inches. So we're doing 3 categories here that are based on size. We thought that made more sense than, say, price, because things are different prices in different parts of the world, sales, etc. So the first category is handhelds under 4 inches. The next is 4 inches to 7 inches. And the next one is 7 and above. So that's pretty easy.
Yeah.
We're also going to award the best custom firmware of the year, the best overall handheld for retro games, the best overall handheld for modern games, and what else are we going to do?
The big one. Well, there's the big one,
of course, handheld of the year. We're going to try to come to a decision on the very best handheld of 2024. So, without any further ado, I think we should dive right into the best handheld under 4 inches. And I think I'm going to throw this one over to Brendon to start off.
I think Brendon is our under 4 inches handheld person. Like, I think, but honestly, like, I think Brendon, based on, we've done how many? 16 episodes so far. I think it's pretty clear that Brendon really values pocketability, portability. Do you like to take a handheld with you every day or almost every day?
Don't forget, he puts the P in portability. We had a whole episode about that.
Right.
I didn't want to see it again, but you did. So there's that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wait,
Brendon.
well, one of you has to take next and one of you has to take console, I think is the thing. If I'm taking portable, then where do you guys land?
I'm a futuristic person, so I want to take next.
You're going to take next?
Oh,
John takes the console. I'm sorry, John.
Console is not a groaning thing. That's a nice thing to be stuck with. Of the three,
it is a good one. It is good.
I am literally an adjective. You're at least a noun or an
object. That's true. I've got nouns going for me.
No, you're totally right. I mean, for me, and the thing I write about the most is, does this thing fit in my pocket, and is it annoying when it's in my pocket? Considering I'm pretty much always carrying something with me, at least in one pocket. Actually, the past 2 weeks, I've had 2 handhelds with me at all times, just to test stuff, to figure out handheld of the year, just to see what really landed in that spot. But yeah, I mean, considering the commutes and everything, and honestly, I think for a lot of people who are commuting, it makes a lot of sense to have something around this size. We've talked about this, the idea of the holy trinity of handhelds. You have something that's really small and portable, something that kind of sits by your bed maybe and is, a little bit bigger than that, and then something even larger for, modern games and, if you want to keep up with the latest stuff. But for the best handheld 4 inches or under, my number one handheld in this category is the Anbernic RG35XX SP. It was a handheld where when it dropped, it was very clear it had the juice. Even when it was announced, it was one of those things where I think there was so much lead up to the Miyoo Mini Flip coming out, which has still not been announced at the time of this recording. Maybe that'll change before this episode comes out, but likely not. But the Anbernic RG35XX SP, just when it was announced, was not only are they swooping under and into the hype of the Miyoo Flip, but it seemed like they just kind of got it right. They made a lot of really smart decisions early on. The added thickness, the added size in general, obviously the screen size, the added buttons. I think the lack of analog sticks was actually a plus for a lot of people. I think it's hard to not mention the fact that the batteries were expanding, and to this day, there is still a kind of blanket recommendation with the Anbernic XX devices to just charge it with your worst charging brick.
Yes. It'll take a long time, but it'll be safe.
Charge it exactly. with the worst cable you have. That's what you got to use with the SP.
Exactly. But at the end of the day, it is the handheld where every time I pick it up, I am having a blast. It's the one where every time I'm playing it in public, on the subway, when I'm outside a restaurant waiting for somebody, when I'm at the movie theater waiting for the movie to start, frequently people will ask me dude, is that a Game Boy Advance SP? And I'm like, no, it's better. And then we have a whole conversation about retro handhelds. And usually, because most people are not like us, aka just they're normal people just wandering around the world. We're the sickos, and we're the sickos. They're the freaks. They're like, oh my god, that's amazing. How do I get one? The SP just elicits that response from people, and it elicits that response from me months and months after owning it. I still find myself just feeling the joy of it every single time I use it. It was a tough category to win because there were 2 other devices that really stuck out to me, but maybe we could talk about those in a minute. I'd love to hear from you guys. I'll throw it to you, Federico, because John threw it to me. Do you have a best handheld 4 inches or under?
I was gonna mention the SP, even though I didn't fully love it as much as you, because I fell in love with something else also from Anbernic. I was I would be fine with honoring the SP, but I will just bring to the table my love for the RG Cube, also by Anbernic, which has to be, to my personal opinion, my personal preference. For my hands, ergonomically speaking, the RG Cube is the most comfortable small handheld I've ever tried. It's lovely. I love the toy-like appearance. I find it very charming. I love the feel of the buttons. The 3.95 inch display, it's great for Game Boy games, great for Super Nintendo, great for that sort of square shaped style gaming. You can run even some PS1 games on it. And it runs Android, so even more modern stuff is totally fine. I was running Dolphin on it and it was okay. I just fell in love with the Cube so much because it's so different from everything else. It in a way, I understand why a lot of people tend to gravitate toward the SP or the new one 34XX, which I still have not received, by the way, because those harken back to very specific moments in time of the GBA or the GBA
Right.
SP. The Cube doesn't harken back to anything. And for that reason, I think it deserves a mention here, even though I feel like in this category, the SP was the conversation, was the small handheld of the year.
Yeah.
Right.
When I look
Right.
at the XX lineup, it feels like the SP is like the king of that lineup. And then everything else is kind of circling around it in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think that that's right too. I mean, for me, it was the nostalgia of the SP that really puts this at the top of my list too, because there are a lot of devices in this lineup and in the size category. I mean, I've tried the Cube, I've tried the RG40XXV, I've tried the ANEO Pocket Micro.
Oh, the Pocket Micro deserves a mention, even though it's super expensive. But like,
yeah. Look, it's my number 2 slot here because the reason it didn't win, despite being a fantastic device with a really good screen, is that it's a little heavy and chunky, and I feel like the RG35XX SP wins on the fact that it's flippable, that I can fold it in half, throw it in a bag. It's protected. It's got that, it's got that Game Boy Advance SP nostalgia to it. It's just got a little bit more going for it in terms of those kind of factors. I also am a fan of the Cube, Federico. I've only had it for a few weeks, and I really get why you love it so much. I mean, it really is one of the most comfortable handhelds, especially in a small form factor for holding. I mean, it's just very comfortable to use. And the screen, for me, like with this category, nothing below 3.5 inches wins out, because I feel like 3.5, I've decided, is my minimum.
That's
I've tried
the minimum for you? Yeah.
Yeah, I've tried the 2.8, the other one by Anbernick, and it's good. It's good. It's the, there it is. It's I've got the orange one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's good. The buttons are a little tiny for me. But yeah, I'm all in on the SP too.
Yeah.
Well, I think therefore the Anbernick RG35XX SP is our favorite handheld under 4 inches of 2024.
I think that's correct. I just want to give a shout out to mine, to your point, John, the ability to just throw it in a bag or whatever and not have to worry about it. I love that mine is so beat up already. For those of you watching on video, you can see like all the scratches I have all over this thing. But hey, for those of you listening, it's beat to hell and back, and it kind of rocks. I lost one of the like hinge covers and stuff. It's
on the end, yeah.
Yeah, the thing is totally fine. The other one I'll give a shout out to that was really close to winning here was the Trim UI brick. That thing has become such a staple for me so quickly that I'll just say it right now. It's not going to win any of these categories. I think because I'm the only one who had one and it didn't win any of the categories for myself. But the Trim UI brick was like so close to winning a bunch of these.
Yeah,
it's a great device. I think you guys are going to like them when they come in.
I think so. Ours cleared customs just in the last 12 hours or so in China. So it's still got several days to go before it gets here.
Yeah.
Moving on, we have the best handhelds between 4 and 7 inches. Now, I should clarify. I don't think we should necessarily award handhelds that came out in 2024, in the calendar year. I think we should consider handhelds that are still available and still, like, what are the options that we will recommend people in 2024? Like, what is it that you can actually buy if you want to emulate, if you want to play retro games? Like,
right. Whether it came out in 2023 or whatever, if it's still for sale is what you're saying.
Exactly, because for example, in this category, I will say it's basically impossible not to mention the Odin 2 and the Odin 2 Pro, which did not come out in 2024, but still in many ways are almost like the default recommendation. If you're looking for a handheld that is between 4 and 7 inches, I mean, I will bring my 3 picks, the Odin 2 Pro, the Odin 2 Mini, and the Retroid Pocket 5. Personally, I think I gravitate more toward the Odin 2 Mini, which also came out in 2024. But I just feel like I have such an affinity for that handheld, like the mini LED display, obviously the PS Vita design, the fact that it's got the same system on a chip as the Odin 2 Pro. So I was setting it up a few days ago for like emulation of can we say this on the show? Well, I was emulating a very recent Nintendo console. And I was just astounded by how you can just throw anything except a very specific open world adventure game, but anything else in high performance mode, the Odin 2 Mini just didn't care. Like it wasn't a problem. And the combination of like it's small but bigger than some of the smaller handhelds, not as big as the Odin 2 Pro, not as big as a Steam Deck, still comfortable enough. I mean, I've used it to stream like my PlayStation 5 even. I just feel like, I don't know, there was something special about the Odin 2 Mini this year, and which is why the Odin 2 Pro continues to be an excellent recommendation for a lot of people. The Ratchet Pocket 5, the OLED display, we talked about this, I think it's excellent, but I am not a fan of the placement of the sticks. The 2 Mini was just very special for me this year.
Yeah. This was weirdly the toughest one for me to figure out.
Yeah,
and
it is a hard one.
Looking deep into my heart, I'll just say for my list of three, I had the Odin Mini, the Odin 2, and the Retroid Pocket 5, which I've now been able to use since the last time we recorded. Those three feel like the most obvious contenders in this category, and I landed on the Odin 2, the classic Odin 2. I am still using the Mini. The Mini is the one that I own. But when I really think about my year of using the Odin 2 family of devices, the amount of time I dumped into games with the Odin 2, it was a device that made me want to pick it up and play stuff all the time. And I was experimenting and I was streaming games. I played through almost all of Persona 3 Reload on that thing. I played through almost all of Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth on that thing, both streaming from my Xbox and my PS5. That device felt to me like the kind of thing that just like asked you to invest in it in a way, in the same way where, I have 4 cameras that I use on a pretty frequent basis, and there's always one that I gravitate towards. It's the Fuji X Pro 3. It just feels the best to use, and it makes me want to go take pictures. The Ein Odin 2 Pro, in my case, was the device that made me want to play games more often than not. The Odin Mini, still great. I love it to death. And it feels very me, and it feels very you, and it feels very you. Like, it is very us as a device. But if I was to say what is the best handheld in this category this year, and the one that I would recommend most people go get, it's the Ein Odin 2, definitely.
Well, we're going to split 3 ways on this one, guys, because I am going with the Retroid Pocket 5, which is my most recent in this category.
Nice.
And I totally hear you on the stick placement, Federico. I agree 100% with that on that, because that is the one flaw that I see with this device. But it's made up for, in my mind, by the OLED screen, which is absolutely beautiful. The fact that it's kind of slim, it's 5.5 inches is almost a perfect size. I feel like it's portable. It's not pocketable in the way that the SP is, but it's still portable enough to be able to take outside the house with you on a regular basis. And it feels good to hold. It really feels good to use. I haven't been using it a long time. I've only had it, less than a month, but it's replaced the Odin 2 for me. I really like the Odin 2. I like Brendon. I used that thing all year long, and I still use it. But I have a feeling that the combination of the Retroid Pocket 5 and then the Odin Portal, when it comes out, will probably be my new kind of combo on the higher end of the size classes.
Yeah. Can I something about this category that really sticks out to me is like, if you are a person who just wants one device, just one, this is the category that I would recommend to people. Yes. And I think any of these 3 devices are great picks. If you're a Vita sicko, like go with the Odin 2 Mini, definitely. But like any of these 3 devices, I think really work in that sphere.
I
What would you
think
say,
what's
Federico?
unique about this category is Android. And I think Android has really helped this category a lot because
great
these
point.
screens are effectively phone-sized screens, and as a result, we're getting really good technology in terms of both the processors and the screens at the same time. And I'm really hoping some of that trickles down to the smaller size classes. Now, it'll be more expensive if it does that. You're not going to get a $50 OLED screen, but you might get something that's less than the Pocket Micro from A&Neo, which isn't OLED, but is also a very good screen. So, I'm hoping that middle category, it's where it seems like a lot of the experimentation is happening right now, that'll kind of spread down to the smaller size class too.
Yeah.
I think, though, if this is the category where most people could go to this category and say, I just want to get one device that plays everything.
Yeah.
And if that's your reasoning, I think the Retroid Pocket 5 cannot get the award because unlike the Odin 2 families, it cannot run everything. Like with the Odin 2, because of the chip, you can say, well, I don't care. I want to emulate Nintendo Switch on it. I can do it. Whereas with the Pocket 5, I know because I literally tried 3 days ago, you cannot do it. You just cannot do it. So I think if our reasoning is, okay, 4 to 7 inches, you can probably get like an Android-based handheld and you can throw all kinds of emulation on it. Cool. Or streaming. Like, what is the best, like the most well-rounded handheld? And I think if we follow that line of thinking, it should be the Odin 2, the classic Odin 2.
Yeah, that is a good point. I mean, I have not been playing more recent systems on the Retroid Pocket 5, and you're right, that is a limitation of it. And
That was my problem with the Odin Mini as well. As soon as I switched from the Odin 2 to the Odin 2 Mini, I stopped streaming from my consoles pretty much. I tried it for like a couple weeks when I got it because I just wanted to see if it worked. And what I found is that I don't gravitate towards doing that anymore, which I think says a lot.
Yeah, I think you should go to the Odin. I think you should go to the Odin 2, to the classic Odin 2. Yeah,
I can get behind that too.
All right.
Shout out to AYN.
Yeah, they do good stuff. Best 7-inch handheld or above. Now,
This one's a lock, and I love this category because I only used one this year.
This is my
and it's not the winner.
This is my territory. Okay, this is my
Yes, it is.
This is my good place here. I have tried them all of them.
Every giant handheld on the market.
I'm your guy. Steam Deck OLED, Legion Go, ROG Ally X are my top 3 picks. Obviously, I have such a passionate love for the Legion Go, which I have modded. It doesn't even look like a Legion Go anymore at this point. It has as we've established, it comes with a cage for an SSD now. It's got a massive eGPU in the living room. I love the Legion Go, but I'll be the first person to say that the Legion Go is a giant, beautiful display. It's a statement.
Not for everybody.
It's enough for everybody. It requires a specific state of mind, and it's a big handheld.
It's a big handheld.
And I think,
and you got to get behind, doing Windows. You got to be willing to do the whole Windows.
And
thing.
you can do the dual boot with Bazite, but as we know, Bazite is not as reliable as the proper vanilla SteamOS. Which, by the way, parentheses, I just had like Galaxy Brain thing. We were all wondering, like, why are they gonna call it the Legion Go S? Legion Go Steam.
Oh.
I just thought it stood for small. I just thought it was smaller than the Legion Go.
It was literally there the whole time.
Yeah, that's funny.
Anyway, the Ally X, I think, was a good mid-cycle update. I think probably if you're looking for a 7-inch version of a Steam Deck that runs Windows, because maybe you want to run Windows games or you want to do eGPUs, I think for most people, the Ally X is probably the more recommended purchase. Also because of the giant battery that it comes with, the variable refresh rate. I think as an overall package, the Ally X is more well-rounded than a Legion Go. The Legion Go is for the true sickos, like me. For most people, if you're seeking Windows as your operating system of choice, I think the Ally X is the better purchase. But, I mean, let me grab this thing.
Yeah.
I got it in white now. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
of
mean,
course.
the Steam Deck OLED. It came out. In November 2023. I
Yep.
don't think there shouldn't even be a conversation like here. The Steam Deck OLED, yes, it's not as powerful as an LIX. Yes, it's not as powerful as a Legion Go. Yes, you can get a bunch of like ANE or One X player consoles that are more powerful than a Steam Deck OLED. But man, as an overall package, as an overall experience, I feel like what Brendon said about the Odin 2. The Steam Deck invites you to play,
Yes.
and you can just pick it up even after days that you haven't played, and it instantly resumes. I have put 80 hours into Dragon Quest XI this year thanks to the Steam Deck. Like, it's
Are you in the post game yet? Where are you at?
not yet because
Okay. We got to talk when you hit the post game.
Yeah.
You're gonna lose your mind. Yeah, okay, great.
I am close, but not yet.
Yeah,
It's gonna
okay.
be one of my holiday projects, like
Great.
actually finishing the story.
Very excited.
Like, the Steam Deck created this market after the Nintendo Switch with the OLED display. It looks fantastic. It's my top pick is the Steam Deck OLED, no question.
What about you, John?
Same here. Steam Deck OLED. Yeah. I mean, I have a Legion Go. I have not used the LAX before, but the Steam Deck, as Federico said, it does invite you to play. It's just easy to get into the Steam Deck. It's just so easy, and you've got your entire library there. It's easy to resume. The screen looks beautiful. One of the things that I think is super interesting.
It's so comfortable. Like
It's so well balanced. Even though you look at it, and if you've never played one of these handhelds, you look at it, you think these controls, the placement of these controls seems really odd and off to me.
The first time
D-pad looks like it's about to fall off.
The first time I saw it with the D-pad in the corner, I was like, Valve, what are you doing? And then you put it in your hands, I'm like, man.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, no, I mean, you look at it and you think, this can't work, but it's absolutely perfectly balanced and feels so light compared to something like the Legion Go that it absolutely works for a lot more people. What I think is really interesting about this category is that all these devices we're talking about were released in 2023. I think that is what
No,
CES...
the Ally X.
Oh, I guess that's true. The Ally
Yeah.
right. I was thinking of the Legion Go and the Steam Deck. But in any event, there haven't been nearly as many this year. And I think that's really what we're leading up to with next year.
I mean, One X player, they did a bunch, but they are very expensive. Also, GPD, they do the odds notebook stuff. Like those are very expensive, and I don't think there's any scenario in which I'm gonna go here and recommend to NPC listeners, go spend $2,000 on a handheld.
Right,
like
on one of
even
Totally agree.
even at the highest end, even if it's running like the latest Ryzen AI 9 chips, just no, don't do it. So I think it's pretty clear that if you're looking for a great handheld of 7 inches and above, it should be the Steam Deck OLED.
Yes. Yeah.
What do you think,
I haven't even used it, and that would be my number one. My number one is the Legion Go, and I didn't love it. I'm really looking forward to the Legion Go S. I think that's really going to be a winner for me in 2025.
But you do have a Steam Deck, right?
But I do have I have the launch Steam Deck.
Sure.
And I still love it and play it all the time. So, I mean, the Steam Deck, if I had it in OLED, if I got the OLED version, which I was thinking about doing, but then, I should hold off to see what happens at CES.
At this point, wait, yes.
But, I guess my pick is the Legion Go, but really, in my heart of hearts, is the Steam Deck OLED, despite having not used it at all.
But shout out to the Legion Go, though. I feel like we're going to give it to the Steam Deck OLED, but shout out to the Legion Go, which I obviously love. I don't know, I feel like right now, Lenovo has the juice with these handhelds more so than Asus. Because I feel like they, with the rumors of the whole lineup of Legion Go devices that they're going to have, the partnership with Valve, I think it's the company to watch as an alternative to the Steam Deck. So shout out to the Legion Go, which is obviously great.
Yeah. I'll just say, I think going into next year, that's going to be, as John was saying, the most exciting category to watch out for. And I think in general, just seeing SteamOS pop up on other form factors, I think we will have more categories hypothetically next year than we do this year, just because of that shift, which is exciting. And I'll cap this part off. I only played the Legion Go this year. If you're a company that makes these things and you want us to test them and talk about them on the show, please hit us up. Go to the About page on MacStories.net and let us know, because we'd love to try more stuff. Thanks in advance.
Absolutely.
Now, I am going to leave this one to you two, because I have not installed a single custom firmware this year, even though I haven't. Even though I am highly anticipating the arrival of the Trim UI, because I want to put MinUI on it.
Yeah.
This is your category, guys.
You have
It's
really
amazing that you haven't done this, by the way.
I haven't. I don't know why.
You're such a tinkerer.
I
This
know.
seems- this is your thing.
What, you want me to walk out the room and be?
No, you should feel embarrassed.
Sit
That's
in
all
a
I'm
corner.
saying.
Okay.
I just want to make you feel bad.
Okay. I'm sorry.
For the show,
Sorry.
Federico.
I apologize. I'm sorry.
John, I'm curious what your favorite custom firmware of the year is.
It's Mustard OS. MooOS is fantastic. I haven't used MinUI actually. I am going to try that out with the brick, but I've used Spruce and Mustard OS this year. I like MooOS better than Spruce. I think the thing that MooOS gets right is it's a good combination of design and preserving the features of the underlying hardware in a way that Spruce OS is a little more stripped down, a little bit more maybe like MinUI, what I imagine MinUI is like. It's good, and it really helped with the A30 because the A30's software that was made by Miu just wasn't very good. But MooOS, I mean, I immediately installed that on all my Ambernick devices because it makes it such a better experience overall.
Yeah. I'll go 3-1 here.
Okay.
But number 3 for me was MinUI. I think my experience using MinUI on the brick in general was just like kind of transformative. It made me really rethink MinUI, because I've tested it a lot in the past on other devices, but that thing on the Trim UI brick just feels like a match made in heaven in a lot of ways. Number 2, I had Spruce as well. Because I mean, just shout out to the developer of Spruce for basically saving the Miu A30 from obscurity. That was a device that came out and was like largely disliked, and it was due to the power of that custom firmware that people went back and started to rethink the A30 and say like, hey, maybe this is a device worth recommending to people. So to the one person, I think it's one person who made Spruce, shout out. That was amazing. That's the kind of thing I'd love to highlight, but at the end of the day, for me, it has to be Mustard OS as well. I think when I consider the best custom firmwares I've ever used on any of these devices, it's like Onion OS on the Miu Mini and Miu Mini Plus, and now Mustard OS on the Ambernick XX line of devices. I think what that team has done in terms of extensibility, in terms of, as you said, retaining the features, in terms of adding features, things like, I was setting up some SPs as gifts for people and installing Mustard OS on there and having it so when they close the game, it will automatically save their game, sleep for 10 seconds, turn itself off, and then when they open the device again, it just boots up back into that game and loads that save state. Like, that's the kind of experience I could just hand to anyone, and for me, that is the chief reason to use a handheld at that size, is like literally just that feeling of, I want to jump into a game, I want to jump into the last game I was playing, and to be able to just open the thing up, turn it on, and it's just there immediately without needing to think about it is, I think, amazing. I think that team is doing some great work, and really exciting going into the next year. They are also looking into adding MooOS to the Miu Mini Flip as well.
Oh, nice.
Right. I forgot about that. Right.
From what we've seen, there are a bunch of teams that have their hands on the Miu Mini Flip, including Mustard OS, Spruce, and the Onion team. And I think Newly as well is going to maybe think about getting on there. So I think there's a lot of cool stuff coming up in the custom firmware space. But when I think about this year, when I think about like just the path that a lot of these custom firmwares have taken, Mustard OS feels the most to me like an enterprise in a way. It's like this group of people who got together and they made something really special, and they know they're making something really special. And the way they've been handling community management and updates, and even the way they monetize and allowing people to pay them and test out new features is like, I think, the path forward. So shout out to Mustard OS. I think it is a transformative custom firmware and like the reason to get the XX devices outside of just their form factor. Yeah.
Congrats to Mustard OS for being
Shout out.
best custom firmware of the year. Now, we are entering the final big three.
Yes.
The best overall handheld for retro gaming. For context, think about it this way: the best best overall handheld to emulate anything up to PlayStation 2. So, obviously, here's how I think about it. Obviously, there's a difference between emulating up to a GBA versus emulating a GameCube or a PS2.
Right.
It requires very different hardware. It requires possibly very different types of price points.
Yes.
I feel like this is very similar to the conversation that we had before. From my perspective, it comes down to the SP or the Odin 2 again. Obviously, the SP, I think you can run up to PS1 games on it, right? You can run PlayStation 1 pretty comfortably.
People are dabbling in GameCube, which is amazing to me,
on
by
the
way.
SP.
Yes,
Really?
I've seen GameCube. I've seen video like in Discord servers of GameCube games running on the SP. Horribly, but like it's happening, which is amazing.
So you have something very compact, very affordable, that can get you through the entire libraries of, up to the DS. Even I think it's totally fine.
Right.
The PlayStation 1, obviously all the Game Boys, all the other 16-bit consoles, like all of that for the SP is totally okay. Versus at a very different price point, the Odin 2, which is a beast, and arguably you could even install, you could emulate a Nintendo Switch on it. Like, it's two very different kinds of retro gaming. My feel is that if we are considering like what is the best overall for retro gaming, right? I think it should be the SP. I think if we are thinking about retro gaming in the context of Game Boy, Super Nintendo, Nintendo DS, Game Boy Advance, or so another way to look at this is look at the App Store. Delta being the most popular app of the year, it's a symbol of the fact that people do have a craving for that generation of gaming, for the Game Boys, the Super Nintendo, the Nintendo DS. There is a place for the Odin 2 and 3DS emulation, GameCube emulation, PlayStation 2 emulation. But I think if we are considering the best overall, that doesn't cost you like $300, it should be the SP.
Yeah, I hear you. The only thing is about the Odin 2 is that the screen makes a big difference, I think. And while you might have a more authentic, I suppose, experience with an SP, you can go and you can do an awful lot with the Odin 2 that it just looks fantastic, and the hardware is just so good. That's why I lean towards the Odin.
Interesting. Federico, you almost got there with that bit that you had, but the wrinkle that I want to throw into this conversation is I think my number one retro handheld, it was the SP for a long time while I was thinking about this, until you guys released the App Stories App of the Year and named it Delta. And I think my answer actually is your smartphone.
Is your phone? I thought of this too, yeah.
I think in 2024, the best device for retro gaming became your smartphone. And everyone using Android has known this for a long time. But now that iOS also has entered the fray, and that's allowed on the App Store, with things like Delta and RetroArch being available on the App Store and PPSSPP. I think the best PSP in 2024 is definitely an iPhone, just with those screens. I think at the end of the day, like, I would recommend that most people download Delta over getting a dedicated piece of hardware so they can try it out first and then decide if they want physical buttons. And even then, like, maybe you get a backbone or something. I love these devices. I'm having a great time with them. I would always prefer to play with physical buttons over everything else. But I do think, in line with your reasoning for naming Delta App of the Year, when I look back at 2024, I see the smartphone as becoming the best retro handheld in a lot of ways. And it's the thing that all of these devices need to compete against now.
true.
I love thinking outside the box like that. It's not a pick that I would have. It totally makes sense. It's not a pick that I would have even thought of.
No, it
myself.
does. And the Odin is essentially a smartphone. My pick.
Yeah,
I mean,
basically.
I mean, it really is. What do you
Yeah.
think, Federico?
Yeah, where do you guys land? That's my number one. I'll say that. My just to list them out.
Okay.
Your smartphone at number 1, the RG35XX SP at number 2, and then the Trim UI brick I had at number 3.
I'm fascinated by this idea. I was not.
For those of you just listening, Federico literally twirling
Yeah,
his mustache.
yeah.
Yes, he is. He
I
is.
was not expecting it because it is like, 2024 was a special year, especially for iOS. You know.
Yeah.
One thing that made me think about this just yesterday was I was writing about AstroPad's bookcase, which is this interesting accessory for the iPhone, which is not really a phone case. It's more of a holder for your phone that gives you rails on the side to hold your phone.
I also got mine, and it's very nice. It's very nice.
And it's fantastic for reading. And then I thought to myself, hey, what if I load up Delta with this?
Yeah.
And your thumbs are still close enough that for games where you're not where you don't really need physical buttons, it's a really nice way to play a game. I think I mentioned that to you, Federico, that I was playing, some Pokemon and some Zelda on there. Yeah, and I can be persuaded at the phone, I think so.
I would be into saying the best overall handheld for retro games in 2024 is the iPhone. I could do it. I could get behind that. And as runner-ups, I would put the SP and the Odin 2 for sure. But it's.
What about your poor Android phone, Federico? Come on.
I mean, there's just from a performance
have Delta.
standpoint, they don't have Delta. They don't have despite everything, I feel like you get a nicer. Although there are a bunch of emulators on the Google Play Store as well.
They really are, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when I'm considering this, I think the iPhone has entered the fray, but I bought the Nothing CMF1 this year, and threw Daigisho on there and a bunch of emulators, and that thing, I open it up and I have the Niagara launcher, which is a really nice, very minimal way of looking at the phone, and then I can launch into Daigisho and it becomes an emulation device immediately. That thing rocks. It has a great screen. It's $200. It's like that is as in the conversation for me as everything else I've used this year.
If you guys haven't tried Emulation Station for Android yet, I beg you to go do it.
Yeah.
I set it up.
Yeah, I put it
recently.
on the Retro Pocket.
It's so well done. I love it. What about saying that the best overall handheld for retro gaming in 2024 is the smartphone?
Yeah.
That's, I think, where Brendon started, where he started.
Yeah, I think that's the answer.
Let's do it.
I'm up for it. Let's do it. We'll do that.
Shout out to phones.
Phones are
Congratulations
everywhere.
to phones.
Phones are good. You can put it in your pocket.
You swallowed another thing. Great.
Yes.
We're reading. We're ordering food. We're playing games, baby. We're
Yeah.
making phone calls. We're texting our friends. We're doing the bills.
Playing Balatro.
We're playing Palatro. Yeah.
We're doing it all. Now, the best overall handheld for modern games, and by modern games we mean Steam, PC, Xbox gaming, and streaming.
I'm interested. What's your pick, Federico?
I mean, it's the Steam Deck. It has to be the Steam Deck. I thought about. So to give you some context here, this year I tried the Ally X, the Legion Go, the Steam Deck OLED in 2 versions. Now I got the limited frosty white version. I tried the PlayStation Portal. Did I have anything else at one point? I think that's pretty much. Did I have anything else? Windows-based, probably. I don't recall.
You had that Asus tablet. Don't you still have that?
I still have the Asus, the Z13 acronym tablet.
Acronym. I always forget
that.
I always forget the acronym as the name, which I love.
Acronym is the name. It's the only Asus tab. It's right now. This is gonna get old by CES, but for now, it's the most powerful tablet you can get. It's got an NVIDIA 4070 laptop edition inside.
That's crazy for a tablet.
It's crazy. But so I think it's close between the Steam Deck or the Ally X. The Ally X is a really well-rounded Windows-based handheld. If you want to play PC games from Game Pass or just the Xbox Store, you can install any kind of streaming client for NVIDIA GeForce Now. You can put now, there's, I believe, PX Play is also now available on Windows and macOS. John, I saw last night version 1.3 of PX
Oh, really?
Play. Yeah. So PX Play is now available on desktop.
That's exciting.
Yeah,
I'll have to check that out.
yeah. So on the Ally X does give you the freedom to do a whole bunch of things. Obviously, you can also do those things in the Linux desktop environment of the Steam Deck. You can put Chiaki NG, which is the one of the better clients for PlayStation streaming on the Steam Deck. There are workarounds to install other game stores on the Steam Deck.
It's a matter of emphasis, though. I think a Windows-based device is just more flexible kind of out of the box.
Yeah.
It's also more complicated out of the box as a result.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. But I think for the same reasoning that we followed before, if we are recommending handhelds to people, like what is you listen to this episode and then you say, okay, I want to spend a bunch of money based on what these three guys have told me to do. What should I
Who
buy?
keep calling themselves sickos over the
Yes.
course of the
Should I-
MP3 file.
First of all,
Good people to take advice from.
dear listener or watcher, the first question in your mind should be, should I really trust these people?
Should I listen to that guy?
That should be the first question. The second question should be, where should I spend my money? And I think you're just gonna have a better time with fewer headaches and just more enjoyment out of a Steam Deck. Now you can even get a refurbished Steam Deck OLED from Valve directly.
Yeah.
I think it's such a good deal to play anything with performance level almost equivalent to a PS4, but in a handheld that can last you for days if you put it to sleep. It's got to be the Steam Deck.
Yeah. Yeah, my thought here was, once again, if I had the Steam Deck OLED, that would probably be my pick this year. But because I didn't, I had to think outside of the box a little bit. And again, my weird answer here is the iNode and 2, once again. When I think about all the games I played this year and all the modern games I played, most of them were streamed from my PC and my Xbox and my PS5 to the iNode and 2. When I got my Xbox recap, they did their version of Spotify Wrapped.
Right.
It was like, you spent 95% of all of your Xbox gaming streaming.
Wow.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. And that's because of the Odin 2. So, even when I'm looking at my Game of the Year list for Into the Aether and the stuff I'm doing for Wavelengths as well, I had to acknowledge how much time I dumped into the Odin 2 and how that device allowed me to play through so many games this year. I think that the Steam Deck OLED is the answer, in my opinion. But personally, the iNode 2 was the one for me.
I started out leaning towards the Legion Go here. But after our conversation earlier in the episode about the Steam Deck OLED, I'm going with the Steam Deck OLED too, because it really is the experience that's the easiest and most fun, that doesn't require a lot of maintenance and fiddling around right out of the box. And it's very hard to beat the combination of both hardware and the software library. Valve has just done something that nobody else has done as well, which is have all those games available and just make it so easy to get into them right there on the Steam Deck. And the support from developers has been phenomenal. I mean, not every game works with the Steam Deck, but an awful lot do. It's really the exception of the rule these days. So yeah, I'm going to go with the Steam Deck OLED too.
Yeah.
I think we should go with the Steam Deck, but just for a second, I'm very into the idea of the Odin 2 as something that you can use to stream from a console. And in fact, I have been so tempted these past few days, guys, to get an Xbox Series S again, like the small one, and just put it somewhere and just use it for streaming.
Interesting. Why not use your Series X? Do you not have a Series X anymore?
Nope.
Oh, I forgot you got rid of it.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. I sell the things that I don't use anymore. That's the only.
I know.
It's the only sane way to live and also to manage.
Yeah, I think I'm about to go insane based on that logic because I've got too many handhelds surrounding me.
I
right
like
now.
to try things. I like to try things, but then I don't want to have a drawer full of like 30 different handhelds.
No,
I do keep my favorites, but like, yeah, I don't have a Series X anymore. But I have thought about like, hey, maybe I should get, because all of this started, by the way, because I really wanted to play the new Indiana Jones game.
Yeah.
And as I think I mentioned this before, my eGPU is not accessible right now because we put the Christmas tree in front of the cabinet. Where
this is such a Federico
I
problem.
cannot open the door.
There's a Christmas tree preventing his eGPU from getting to the kin cable.
I gotta open the cabinet door to make sure that there's proper airflow when I'm using the eGPU.
Right.
But now the Christmas tree is in front of that. And so I cannot open it. And I don't want to play with an eGPU without any airflow.
No.
And if you open it up, the Christmas tree famously is the most flammable thing in anyone's house.
Exactly.
There you go.
So
adding extra heat to the situation.
All that to say, how am I going to play Indiana Jones? And I thought, maybe I should just get a Series S. And that tops out at like 1440p, probably doesn't do any kind of ray tracing. But if I'm streaming that to, I don't know, an Odin Mini or a Steam Deck, it should probably be fine and still let me enjoy the game.
The Odin is fantastic for streaming because it's Wi-Fi 7. I mean, you've got a great router, and that's one of the differentiating things about the Odin too, is the fact that it's got Wi-Fi 7 in it. Not a lot of people have Wi-Fi 7 routers yet, but even, most of the devices we've talked about today are still back on Wi-Fi 5.
Yeah. So all this to say,
can I hit you with two other options, Federico? Here,
please do.
I think number one would be Game Pass. You could get Game Pass and just stream it from there directly.
Oh, from the cloud?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's gotten a lot better. I started using it again recently.
I
think the experience was
that.
less stuttery and better than it used to be.
And if you want an even better situation, which I imagine you do, knowing you and having talked to you for 16 episodes of this podcast, NVIDIA GeForce Now will allow you to stream it at like max settings, basically.
Yep. Get that premium subscription going, Federico.
Okay, all right. We're cooking now. Okay, yes. Why didn't I think of streaming?
I don't know.
I still see, that's my thing that I need to get better at in 25. I often forget about streaming. Like, I just assume, everything has to be local, and it doesn't have to be anymore.
Yeah, not these days. Yeah, if it works, it works. I'll give a shout out to Christian Spicer, co-host of DLC, who has been playing Indiana Jones via GeForce Now, and said it's remarkable.
That's good to know. I might try that.
Yeah. There are ways to put GeForce Now on a Steam Deck, right?
I would assume so.
Yeah. There are ways to do that. All right. So I think, it should be the Steam Deck OLED, but I will happily put the Odin 2 as the runner-up. I think
that works for me.
I think
sounds good.
Yeah. Okay. Now this is gonna be tricky. We gotta choose a Handheld of the year.
Oh man.
Now, how should we approach this? Because should it be the best overall that cuts through all categories? Should it be the handheld that we recommend the most people go buy? Should we recommend this based on what captured our conversations? What was the narrative in 2024? What should be the criteria that we use to name a handheld of the year? Is it all of the above? I don't know.
It's kind of.
It's going to be so subjective, I think, right? It's so about the whims of our own experiences. I can go first,
please do.
if that works. Yeah. Just going from the bottom to the top here. My two runners up. Number 3, I had the Trim UI brick, which once again has just surprised me over and over and over again.
Shout out to
in
the
brick. Very short time that I've used it. Once again, I'm excited for you guys to get it, and we can talk about it more. Number 2, the SP, I just think is one of the more remarkable devices that came out this year. It has the it factor. the clamshell of it all is like exactly what I've wanted since I got into this space in the beginning. You know, I have a tweet from like 2020 begging Anbernic to make something like this, and here we are. I'm very happy with the SP. I love it. I think the addition of Mustard OS just makes it like absolutely killer. But at the end of the day, the reason this podcast exists, the thing that I think really threw us together, and was the device that I played the most and was the most interesting. It's the reason I like started blogging again this year. It's the Odin 2. I think the Odin 2, the family of Odin 2 devices, I'll even say, between both the Odin 2 base and Pro and the Odin 2 Mini, those devices are just such an unbelievable price to performance ratio. I think when you get it in the hands and it runs Android and the amount of customizability there, even just the idea that still permeates the Odin 2, which I think is fascinating, that like it's more limited by software than hardware in a lot of ways. Like there is still the potential to squeeze even more juice out of what the Odin 2 is providing at that price point. It's all remarkable. And the fact that they're expanding out with the Odin 2 Portal, you know, just an even bigger Steam Deck size device, I think speaks to how confident AYN is with that hardware specifically, and how much they think they can still do there. And you know, I wrote about this in my review. I reread my review from March of the Odin 2, and I said something there which I still kind of stand by, which is just like, at the end of the day, I think if you want one device for everything, the Odin 2 is it. And that's something that a lot of manufacturers have stood up and said, you know, we made the everything device. Mm-hmm. And so infrequently is that the case. So infrequently can you just get a thing out of the box, throw an emulator on it, throw some ROMs on it, and it just works without needing to tinker at all. The Odin 2 is kind of the dream in that way. And in all the years leading up to the Odin 2, a lot of developers have claimed to have made what the Odin 2 actually is. It feels, this is a silly comparison, but it feels like the Skyrim moment. It feels like when Todd Howard stood up on stage and was like, see that mountain, you can walk to it. How many times have people said that in the past in open world video games? And then you can walk to that mountain, but it turns out that's the only thing in the video game. Whereas with Skyrim, it's like, no, the world actually is that big. The Odin 2, in my opinion, is the first device to actually make good on the claim that it is the everything device. The fact that it can run up through PS2, the fact that it can run Switch, in some cases better than Switch, depending on what game you're playing, the streaming that we can do from our consoles and services like GeForce Now and using Moonlight to stream from your PC. It's just the slam dunk. It's the slam dunk, and it is the device that I would recommend to the most people if they're comfortable spending that kind of money.
I had 4 in my list. Starting from the bottom, I was gonna mention the RG Cube, which I know I'm probably the only one here who really loves the Cube. I love
that you love the Cube.
I love the
Cube.
Great for
you.
It's so cute. It's so comfortable. It was the only handheld that I brought with me on vacation this summer. It's great. I love the Cube. The Odin Mini, I just, for all the reasons that I mentioned before, it's a modern PS Vita Mini LED, which is not as good as OLED, but it's still very colorful, very warm display.
It's got character.
It's got character. It's on the small side for me. But yeah, I mean, I really like what AN has done there. And the top 2 for me, if I have to be honest, it's gotta be again the Steam Deck OLED and the Odin 2, because when I look back the days that I've used my Odin 2 Pro specifically, I think it shares, like, the Odin 2 Pro compared to the Steam Deck has one big issue, which is you just cannot install PC games on it. Sure, you can put Portmaster on that thing, but it's not like it's running SteamOS and you can go there and be like, yeah, I want to download Dragon's Dogma here. No, you cannot do that. It's mostly for streaming and emulation. But like the Steam Deck, I think the Odin 2 has that quality of it invites you to play. I know it's something that I've said before, but it's got that sort of aspect of It's not demanding like a Windows handheld could be. You don't have to micromanage it. You don't have to worry about, oh, did I install the correct driver for the GPU? No,
Right.
you just don't
Right.
care about that stuff.
Right.
And so I think it comes down to these two once again, the Steam Deck OLED and the Odin 2. I don't know which one to pick, which is why I would happily leave it to John and see where we all land.
All right. So I'm going to start at the bottom of my 3 with the Legion Go, because even though the Legion Go is this weird, giant, angular, somewhat uncomfortable Windows PC in your hands to
Yeah,
use.
drag it, John. Keep going.
You know what? Notwithstanding all of those things, it kind of captivated me because it really showed me where everything is heading and gave me ideas about what Windows could be with a little bit of a push from Microsoft and a little more work from some of these manufacturers. And so for that alone, it got a spot in my list. The second one is the Retroid Pocket 5, because despite the fact that those sticks are problematic, the screen is what captivated me on that. The screen combined with the size. And for me, the screen is one of the most important things of any of these devices. And that OLED screen just absolutely pops. It looks fantastic. It can't play the highest end games. It's got the sticks in a funny place. But for everything else, it's perfect for playing. Plus, you can play Android games on it. You can stream on it. You can do all those things. So it's a pretty good all-around device. But the one for me that really does bring it all together in one place, both the hardware, the way the controls are laid out, the screen, which isn't the best screen I've used, but is still very good and is powerful enough to do a little bit more than the Retroid, is the Odin, the Odin 2. So that's my pick too. Yeah, it's the one I've played the most all year long. It's an amazing device. And I think Brendon's hits the nail on the head, really, that AYN feels like they have more to do here, and they definitely have more to do, judging from what we've heard about the Portal. They've continued to refine the Portal too. That's one reason it's not coming for a few more weeks. But yeah, the Odin 2 for me is number one. The Steam Deck didn't make the list at all, and I think that's because I was maybe, despite the fact that I really like the OLED version because of the screen, I guess maybe I was a little bored with the Steam Deck compared to the other devices. It didn't feel new to me in the same way that some of these other devices did. So
yeah, I think it's interesting to consider the Steam Deck because the OLED hardware refresh I think is important to note, but a lot of the reason I think the Steam Deck is still in the conversation is because of the continued improvements on SteamOS.
Yeah.
And when I think about the landscape of everything that I've used this year, John, you're totally right about the Legion Go. My short time with that thing really taught me a lot about what I want out of a Windows device specifically. And it taught me that I actually want a Windows device. Like, I think my next Steam Deck size handheld will be a Windows device. But if Lenovo is now, doing a deal with Valve, getting SteamOS on the Legion Go S, to me, it feels like Microsoft dropped the ball here in a really big way. And Phil Spencer has been very, very vocal about the fact that Windows has a long way to go before they have a handheld version ready, going so far as saying their handheld is probably multiple years out. Yep. I think Valve has just kind of seized the moment. And if all of these developers, starting with Lenovo, but I imagine it'll be like dominoes, just start to go in the SteamOS route, it's like, will Microsoft even be in the conversation by the end of next year? It's a valid and weird question to consider. Really going in thinking I'm excited to go to CES to play Windows handheld. I think at the end of the day, I'm just going to be back on SteamOS no matter what I do. But I'm glad to hear the Odin 2 landed at number one for you as well.
I would say congrats.
Federico.
I could say congrats to the 2024 NPC Handheld of the Year. It's the Aeon Odin 2.
All right.
And there it is.
What a device.
Yeah.
What a device.
Yeah. But shout out to the Legion Go. And
shout out to the Legion Go. I'm excited about the S.
And let me do it. Let me shout out to the RG Cube. I love you, Cube. I love it. Let's go.
Funny looking chunky boy.
Because no one else will. John, you mentioned it earlier. I just want to say the 28XX weirdly was one of my favorite devices from the year, and it didn't really
All right.
come up in any of these conversations. But I like this thing a lot more than most people do. If you're only playing Game Boy and Game Boy Color like I am, usually, it's a great device.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tiny.
Well,
But shout out to the Odin 2.
so this is our first ever annual HOTYs.
Yes.
Who knows what next year's edition will look like? Who knows? Now we're recording this, and you guys in just a few days will head out to Las Vegas, where you will probably see the future of handheld gaming. I am so excited for you, and I'm so excited for us, because we'll get to talk about these. We'll get to buy these. We'll get to maybe receive your review units for some of these. MacStories.net/about. You can find our email addresses there. I think we did it, and I think I'm happy with our some surprises here and there, but I'm happy with our picks. I think we've done a good job.
Yeah, I think they're good picks.
Well,
Me too.
John,
That closes out a year, baby.
we're done. 2024. It's in the books. We can go
The
home.
Odin 2 held out for the entire year. Think about that. That device came out at the very beginning of the year, and it held its own all the way to December. That's quite an accomplishment after so much that water under the bridge in 2024. I mean, it was a big year for handhelds.
Well done, Ian. Yeah. All right.
I'll take us home.
Yeah.
That's it for this year, for 2024 of NPC Next Portable Console. You can find me and Federico over at MacStories.net and Brendon at wavelengths.online. You can find us online and social media. Brendon is Brendon Bigley, just about everywhere. Federico is at Fetici in most places, and I'm at John Voorhees. We will see you all in 2025. Bye, all.
Happy New Year.